BTW, blow the whistle. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Blow the whistle. Hey, man. We back at it.
Back at it again, Dame.
Man. But now we got somebody in the middle, so we got to act right a little bit. We got to be a little bit politically correct because we have some feminine energy in here, this week. But you know what it is, blow the whistle. Keep it raw, uncut.
Bro, who do we have? Let's not even keep it a secret anymore.
Hey, let us know. This is an amazing woman.
Dr. Dee. Dr. Allen Dame in the building.
Yes, absolutely.
Doctor of Psychology has so many acronyms. I'm going to forget some of them, guys. So just don't back in. She'll be
I remember LCAS.
LCAS.
That's Licensed Clinical Addiction Specialist, right? Yes, got that one. LCMHCS. Go ahead. What's that?
That is Licensed Clinical Mental Health Counselor Supervisor.
That means you be getting those supervision little contracts and stuff. Yeah. If you need supervision.
Yes, definitely. I welcome
There you go. I need to work on
that. But is yours already for Superman or it's going to be for supervision?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Depends on the environment I'm in.
She's already started. You see it, right? You see it, right? That is a great question.
Yes, I like that. I like the feedback. I like that already. I like that. I like the energy. I like the vibe. Y'all know how we do here on Blow the Whistle Interactive Podcast. We were mixing sports and mental health, but
we can still do that.
Don't
do it just because I'm a female. We can talk about sports.
All right. Hey, that was BTW record for blowing the whistle.
Don't ever.
Exactly. That's a BTW record. Well, we maybe about a minute in, and we already blowing the whistle. But we wanted to segue into this series, this 5-part series that we got going on, you guys. We're going to be talking about one of our favorite topics that everybody is included in, and that's relationships. We about to get a little bit raw, a little bit dirty, a little bit of truth in there, well, a whole lot of truth. It may hurt some people. It may, bring some awareness.
But you got to be, what we always say, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
You got to get comfortable with that. So, BTW Interactive Podcast, like Dane said, we wanted to put sports and mental health together, but it's really to bring awareness to the stigma of mental health and erase that stigma, if you will. We have a great guest. We've had great guests. We love you guys for joining us. We're going to get started.
Man. Hey, I appreciate that, Dr. Dee. Over here blowing whistles already, you guys.
Let's switch it though.
Yes.
Dr. Dee.
Wait a minute.
What was your motivation for getting into this field and staying in the goals you have and achieving as much as you have?
Honestly, I stumbled upon it, to be quite honest with you. My goal was to become a forensic pathologist.
And for the people out there in the back that don't know what forensic, I forgot the word already. Pathologist. Okay.
That's the individual that does autopsies with the goal of investigating the body to figure out what happened to the individual. And so that's what I wanted to do. But then chemistry happened. And for those of you who've been in college and every time you take a chemistry course, you got to take another one, they build one on top of the other. And it's harder and harder and harder. And I just knew that I was going to be too different. I couldn't do it. And I took my first psychology course and I absolutely fell in love with it. Probably like a lot of you, if you've been watching the show, you realize that when you start reading the book and you start hearing your teachers, you say, "Oh, I do that. You mean they got a name for that?"
Right.
And so I was in awe that a whole lot of stuff that I did actually had names, and then we all do. And so that just became, so I said I wanted to still do forensic psychology. And so I went along with a psychology degree, and then when I decided to do a master's, there was a program where I was able to do 2 masters at the same time. So I was able to do marriage and family therapy and mental health counseling.
Okay.
And so the way I looked at it was, this is just a stepping stone. I'm never going to use this degree or these degrees. My goal is to get the forensic psychology degrees. And so when I moved to North Carolina, just a quick shout out to Miami 305. When I moved from Miami to Charlotte, I knew, as a single parent, I knew that I got to take care of my babies. So I need to work as I look for the program that I'm about to go into with regards to my PhD. And so I said, you know what, let me use these masters and let me go ahead and get licensed. And so I just did it to do it because I needed a job. My first job, my first child I worked with, I completely fell in love. And I said, this is it. I don't think I'm going too far from this. And it came so natural. And so one of the things that I learned when I applied for my master's degree and I had an interview, my professor, well, he became my professor, but he was interviewing me for the program. He asked me, what made you go into, what is making you go into getting this degree? And I said to him, well, I'm tired of people always coming to me and asking me questions about what they should do. And so I feel like if they're going to ask me questions about stuff, I should get paid for it. And so, of course, he laughed. And then he said, that's how most people stumble on this field. I realized that this is not a field that we choose. It chooses us. And so you either have it or you don't. There are clinicians that are clinicians by trade, but not by spirit. And so for me, I'm a clinician by trade and spirit. I live it, I breathe it, I believe in it. And so for me, this is very, very real. And so I enjoy it. I enjoy every piece of it. And even though, you mentioned that my PhD is in psychology, is an industrial and organizational psychology, because for years I was in corporate America, I found a way of bringing both business and psychology together. So that's also another passion of mine. But working with individuals, somebody shared with me that they heard me recently talking to a client, and they said, I never realized how easy this can be. And that's kind of like the pat on the back, right? That you get. It's great to get a check, but it's not fulfilling as it is when you know you've done great and you know that now people have heard what you had to say to them, and they can use that information to continue to better themselves. And that's the goal. I hope I answered that short question.
I wanted to blow whistle a couple of times.
We don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, the flow was flawless. Man,
What happens on BTW, man? We got the right guest now.
yeah. I'm already serious, but I'm ready to get into this.
Let's jump into it.
To this relationship type talk, because we're gonna have so many perspectives. We got 3 people here with 3 different experiences, so we have a thought process and perspective that may be aligned in some ways, in some ways not. So you guys that know me, I'm always devil's advocate. I'm always left field, and it will be tonight. So D, what we talking about? Because we can go a lot of different ways, and we can talk all night about relationships. Where we going to? Where are we going to go with this?
Well, I don't really like small talk, so I really like to just dive into some of the substance, right? And so one of the main things when you talk about relationships, the discord in relationships, and the reason behind it is infidelity, or the compromise of the relationship. Male, female, it doesn't matter. It happens at an alarming rate. And what's happening now is I see generations starting to question the whole idea of relationships. What does it mean? What is the real foundation? What they know is not what we were taught. So the teaching dynamics, the communication is very different. Is the practice in our society, the American society we live in, is it conducive to what we're doing? Our habits say no. The numbers say no. So I just want to jump into it right now. Let's talk about this cheating thing. And why? Because it's bigger than just someone is a bad person. No, it's not. All cheaters are not bad people. Right. people who compromise their relationship are not bad people. There's something going on that we don't feel comfortable exposing or expressing. So therefore, it dictates how the decisions that we make the action.
Right. So piggybacking off of that particular topic, because I'm pretty sure either you've been cheated on or you've been the cheater. One way, shape, form, fashion. All of us are over a certain age. I'm not even going to put our age out there like that. I'm not going to do that. But we've had enough experiences to kind of either been that person that's been quote unquote the dog or the person that has been heartbroken about being cheated on. So I want to go to Dr. Dean first because I want to get her perspective on infidelity. And how would you define infidelity, just from your perspective?
When you betray someone's trust.
Right.
And so, you have people that, for them, if you're in a relationship, you supposedly were committed to one another, and someone is now sharing their feelings, most intimate thoughts and feelings with somebody else, they consider that to be a betrayal of their trust, and they consider that to be cheating. Others feel that some sort of intercourse or sexual activity has to take place in order for that to be cheating. But it comes back to betraying someone's trust. And so trust is one of the most difficult things to gain.
Yes.
As you stated about our ages, the older we get, right? The older we get, the more relationships we have been, the more difficult it becomes to continue to trust them. Because those relationships did not just end, the previous relationships, just because. There had to be something there that caused. And so now we have to come back. We have to regroup. We have to, those of us that are hopefully sound of mind, we try to see what did we play, what role we played in this relationship. So when we move to the next one, we don't bring the same type of baggage and we don't do the same thing, because you do what you did and you're going to get what you got. And so it just boils back to the trust piece. So I always say, and folks think that I'm wrong for it, but I always say that I start everybody off with a C. I start you right off in the middle. It's on you whether you want to work yourself up to that A or you want to work yourself down to that F.
Right.
And so I'm not going to bring you in at an A, because an A means that I trust you all the way and you've done nothing to work on it and earning my trust. And so, and vice versa, I need to be able to do the same with other folks. And we do the same when it comes to therapy, right?
Yes.
There has to be a trusting relationship in therapy, because if not, our clients will not come to see us, or they will not put in forth any work.
Right. The
same thing with relationships. When that trust is gone, then that's when we have a lot of the infidelity, that's when we have a lot of the other issues that come up.
It sounded like what I heard was when you started to see, that's the old school courting. That's the old school.
I like that.
Courting.
Yeah.
What does courting do? It gives you the opportunity to show if you want to work for that thing, or you want to, work at all. And absolutely wind up.
But I mean, that's like, let's go ahead now through the mix of play, right? Because that might be more of the millennial thing, and even some folks in our generation, some of the players. So what do? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You date a few people at the same time.
Right.
And they start eliminating each other on their own.
Right.
Why? Because we're looking at things that talk about our trust and where we're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And so, we do it in so many different ways, right? But going back to the infidelity piece, reasons why people do it, there can be so many different reasons, right? And so, often I feel like people are not happy with where they are. They're cheaters, right? And so not necessarily, when I say happy where they are, not necessarily happy with that person, within themselves. Yes. Because you can't tell me that, and it also speaks more to that person's character also, right? Because if, let's say, I don't know anything about you, Dane, but if I know you and I are really, really good friends, and I know you cheated on the person that you're with, I already know that as a friend, you're probably going to be betray me? Because if this is the person that you are giving your body, your all, your soul,
Right.
I'm just your friend. Why would you not betray me? You've given that person way more of you. Why would you not betray me?
Right.
So when we talk about relationships, we often think about a intimate relationship. We forget that in friendships, there's cheating, right?
Yeah,
So in friendships, there's mistrust.
Right.
And so, but that speaks to people's characteristics. It speaks to where that individual is as a person, not necessarily about who they're dating or what that person may not be doing, which is what we hear a lot. Oh, she wasn't doing this or he wasn't doing that, so that's why I went out there. No, where were you? Where were you here? Or were you here?
Right.
Because we often make decisions. We often say, this is not working for me, I'm out, versus betraying somebody.
And you guys raised some very valid points. I'm just over here like going to therapist and all, like, yeah, absolutely. But the infidelity definitely, I think it's more emotional. Well, it's emotional first, and then it becomes physical. Emotional from an individual perspective, whether that's the lack of confidence, and I see that with a lot of guys, in a sense. They feel like their manhood, quote unquote, gives them that level of confidence, whether they're just really great in bed or they have the stamina or whatever it can be. And that's why they say we often think with that head and not this particular head, because we don't lack the internal confidence that's needed in order to sustain healthy relationships. We have external confidence. People tell us, okay, we were good, or our physique is on point,
The
or
facade.
yes, the facade. So being able to differentiate those two, and like you said before, getting to a level of self-awareness and understanding within yourself is, and this is going to be the question right here. This is about to be the point. Is it natural? Is monogamy a natural thing, or a societal thing that we created to, for whatever reason? If you're talking about population control, if you're talking about cultural, but if you go back to biblical days or Africa or whatever the case may be, we've had concubines, we've had multiple wives, we've had multiple husbands. So is it natural? And what we're fighting internally is something that's natural that we deem as unnatural, in a sense. Like just being able to be attracted on so many different levels to people from an emotional perspective, intellectual perspective, because we have a lot of sapiosexuals out there. And I want to, like, if you can get my mind, then, I'm good.
The rest is done.
Exactly. So being able to connect with people on multiple levels, it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. It doesn't have to lead to sex. But again, infidelity could be an emotional type of thing. It doesn't have to always be physical. So again, my question is it natural to be monogamous?
It's natural in our society. We've made it natural in our society. Western Hemisphere. We've definitely made it natural where it's become our societal norm.
Right.
Now, something that Dee said earlier when we spoke about more of the younger generation, it almost looks like for them, and it may not be, right? So the wheels may be turning. And so they may not find the value that we have found in our parents and grandparents have found in just being with that one person in our lives. If you notice, we might almost be the last believers, right? Because we believe in marriage versus their children. Now I say children because they could be our children as far as their age.
Right.
And so millennials now believe that they don't have to be married. We're in the same group, stop playing. They don't have to be married to have a family.
Right.
And so what they also don't realize is that also skews the belief system as well. So now we're looking at belief systems. Now we're looking at when some people feel, it's just a piece of paper, right? It's more. The union has come together based on more than just a piece of paper. But if we're just on a regular relationship and it didn't work out, we'll grab a bag and go. But if we did have that piece of paper and it was a union under our belief system, I'm going to work a little hard. I'm going to be like, man, I want to grab the bags, but I need to work a little bit hard on this, which in turn allows us to keep our family a little bit more whole because we have to put in more work. I know that earlier we said, and we were talking to each other before the show with regards to relationships, that they're like businesses. We have to put in work. When anybody that knows anything about a business and you started a business off the ground, you have to work 24/7 to make it happen. Same thing that we have to do in relationships. And after a few years, yeah, you might be able to take your foot off the gas just a little bit and put on cruise control every now and again. But then, like any other business owner, we have to stay with the times. So we have to spruce it up. We have to do the little things to kind of keep our relationship going. And so what happens now is that you have a lot of individuals that when they don't have that necessarily connection under that union, they move on. But when they move on, they've left a child or two. So now they have another additional family here. Not that our ancestors didn't do it, because we all have family. With
those
siblings,
couple kids over there.
correct. With siblings that were born on the same day we were.
And they just talk about family reunions and stuff.
Correct. You're like, hey, we got the same birthday.
Right.
And so, and that happens, but it's almost more accepted. You know, I have adult children. I have children in their mid-20s. And, well, I won't say which one, but one of them says to me, no, I don't need to be married to have children. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty aware of that. Mm-hmm. And so, but the value, and even though I've instilled the value that I've instilled in my children, they still have their belief system because of the environment that they're growing in. So when you ask the question whether it's a societal per se norm, it depends to which generation at this point.
I think great insight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great insight. What I expected, but what I heard you say, one word that really highlighted is value. And it's what we value. I'm just speaking from, I'll go more gender specific, talking about from a male perspective. It's what we value that I think is a major divide. As you spoke about, when we grew up, we looked to be married. We were taught about being married. This generation is not. We don't value those same things. What do we value? We value the likes. We value the popularity. We value a lot of material things, a lot of things that others can see. The intimate part of it is what we have gotten away from. And I know just from a male perspective, if it had not been for a father like I have, which is a rare occurrence and a rare model, I don't know about having the same perspective when it comes to marriage, relationships, the longevity of it, why infidelity happens so much. Where now with my son, 21 years old, there's nothing for him to say, that's a norm now. It's a norm to have 3 or 4 girlfriends, 3 or 4 boyfriends. Mm-hmm. Dating is not, dating means so much more. Right. So the value, we devalue the union. Because I think personally, we just don't have the models anymore to consistently reinforce this is how, I don't know, it's not to say supposed to be, right, but this is a healthy way,
So what you say, I'm glad you brought that point up. When we talked about models and relationships and understanding monogamy family system, because you're right, like we grew up, I grew up with my dad in the home. He was there, but he wasn't there. I got a brother that's outside the family, type of thing. So understanding what is your foundation in a sense? What is it that you value? Is it the wife, the 2 kids, the picket fence and the dog, that American type of dream? Or do we value, and this is one that y'all like keep my ass on, do we value healthy connections as we get them? So we're talking about dating, like you said, your son said he can date 3, 4 women. And
wait, you said girlfriends. So when I hear that, girlfriends and dating are 2 different things.
Right. So let's clear that up. So dating for me even at my age, dating for me is I see someone interested, whatever level we end up becoming, that's where we become. But I'm not one of those people that is focused squarely on that person. If we're dating, that is not a commitment, is we're getting to know each other. And I think a lot of people sometimes get that confused. That if we say we're dating, we haven't had that talk. Like, what are we? Are we committing to one another? Then I assume that you're doing the same thing that I'm doing, which can be wrong sometimes, because that person over there's definition of dating could be like, I'm only focusing on you, but you out here doing X, Y, Z. And that's why I stress, we always talk about communication, especially when it comes to relationships. Communicate what it is that you want, and not have that fear of, okay, I'm not going to fit the mold that this person wants me to be, and they're going to leave. A lot of people operate out of fear in relationships. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we have infidelity. Because again, if I put all my eggs in this basket and this person decides to leave me, what am I left with? Nothing.
Because you weren't happy with yourself to begin with. So why are you trying to be in a
blow
relationship?
that god doggone whistle. That's the biggest thing of becoming self-aware and understanding who you are. Some people are monogamous creatures. They're just like, this is what I grew up knowing, seeing, understanding, this is what I want. Adversely, you got some people that say, you know what, I'm big on energy. If I connect with you on an intimate level, I may connect with Susan over here on a totally different level. And it's special, it's unique. Doesn't mean that I'm necessarily cheating on you. You're just adding value in one particular aspect of two particular aspects. But me being able to communicate what it is that you are to me and what I'm doing within this relationship is important.
So is it healthy to think of someone that they have to provide all of that for you?
That's possible.
Or you can have 5 people with one quality.
But that's a question though.
It's an option.
That's a question. Like,
it is.
And I often raise this particular point to, not even a point, but just a question. A lot of my peers. It's like, it's very difficult to say, okay, this one person over here is going to be able to satisfy every need that I have, and I have blinders on everyone else. It's virtually impossible to do everything to your partner. Y'all agree with that?
Well, if the person wasn't complete to begin with, it's going to be very
and that's why I said add value. So let's just say I'm whole as whole can be, right? And we're in a relationship. Let's just say, now use this example a lot. If I'm a football fanatic, you can't stand football. Meanwhile, but I'm saying there's a.
You're not gonna make it. I'm telling you right now. I'm into football.
Okay.
You don't have an issue.
Right. So if my partner does not value football like I value football, I can change my perspective on that to accommodate her, or I can say, you know what, I do have other friends that can fill that particular need as far as camaraderie. We go to football games, enjoy each other's company, and I go home. It may be same sex, it may be the opposite sex. Is that considered cheating?
Not necessarily. But you went back to the second most important thing, which is the communication, right? I think communication and trust find each other in the first place.
Absolutely.
And so you go back to that. Communication. You communicated with that individual, hey, you're not big on football. All these other folks over here are. I'm going to hang out with them. I'll see you later. But this is what I like. It doesn't take away from your desires and your likes, because you should never take that. And so I'm a firm believer that you should never allow anyone to wipe away your smile. And so football makes you smile.
Right.
No one should be able to come and take your smile away, right? They should be able to be open enough and understanding. The person might love ballet. Go ahead, you put it.
I want to mess that one up.
The person might love ballet. You can't stand it.
Right.
You might fall asleep as
Right.
soon as you hear the nutcracker come on.
Right.
And so for you, you might say, I'm sorry, I can't even go. But you can go with your friends. I mean, you go with your guy friends, you can go whatever, but you had that conversation.
Right.
So it can't be cheated when you have a conversation and there is an understanding. I have various male friends that I hang out with. I tell my significant other, hey, I'm going to go hang out with one of my male friends.
Right.
I didn't do it on the slide. I wasn't sneaking anywhere. When we start sneaking, when we start doing this, that's when there's issues.
Right.
My significant other knows who my male friends are. They come to the house. We all hang out. It's secret.
Right.
That's when issues arise when we do that, right? So while we can continue to be effective communicators, there should not be a reason why if the person, there's something that's number one to us, but it's not to them, there's going to be the same on the other side. But to be able to understand, that's like having multiple TVs in a house.
Right.
You both may not want to see the same show. That's why you have more than one TV.
Right.
So, the same.
No, I want to blow that with. No, man. I'm just saying, like,
Communication sounds
communication, but also understanding your partner, because a lot of people go into relationships with all this baggage, as you want to call it. If you've been cheated on, when you get out of that relationship and go into another one, you're going to bring some of that baggage. If you didn't clean it out, if you didn't take the proper measures, go to therapy, because that's a form of grief. You lost a relationship. You got to process that. So if you haven't been able to successfully and fully process that particular loss, you just bring it to someone else. So your insecurities, and your inability to be emotionally available, which a lot of people are. I see it a lot, just emotionally unavailable. They may present well and all that good stuff, but everything is a trigger for them. Well, my ex did this. That reminds me of what my ex did to me. So that's, again, having that blank slate. So I definitely think it's important to address those unresolved issues, which hopefully in the future will help us kind of understand infidelity. Because a lot of people become cheaters or be cheated on because of that lack of self or lack of knowledge of self. Some people are just not relationship material in a sense.
That's the other piece. And just so no one misconstrues what you're saying, it's not just cleaning the slate, but also don't forget the experience that you just went through, right? Because then that doesn't mean that when the next person does similar things, that means that. It says keep an eye open, but it doesn't mean automatically that's something. So it's I always believe that we continue to learn and grow from our experiences, right? I feel like people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And only time will tell why they were here. What can you take from it? And this person taught you whatever it was, whether about yourself, about relationships, whatever it may be. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that when the next person does it, that it's necessarily a bad thing. But it's also good to keep a little bit of that information, but not to use it as your barometer to measure everybody else by. People
You heard it. About these type of conversations, we do it for the platform and for the audience, but man, it's so therapeutic for even ourselves. Listening to it, even if it's something new or just a reinforcement of a principle of value that's very important to our mental health. And this infidelity piece, I mean, it's an uncomfortable subject for all of us to talk about, because like you said earlier, we've either witnessed it or we've been a victim of it ourselves, and it impacts everyone. When you talk about families, it not only impacts the relationship of two people in a relationship, but it impacts everyone around you. You have kids, you have extended family, you've met and had engagements and spent quality time, and all that stuff is over. Relationships in the workplace, those things are prevalent as well. I mean, it's just, there's cheating, as we say, all over. And we just have to, as you said, be more self-aware of ourselves. And I think the thing that I wanted to express the most is the lack of the ability to express. And we can start to improve on that from an individual basis, then I think the relationship from a communication standpoint we've spoken about in the last few minutes or so becomes better. And now we have an opportunity. I know for me, I'm just going to speak from a man standpoint. It's hard. It's hard for us to express those type of feelings. And for some of us, it's hard for us to express the ones that wind up bending us towards the compromise or towards the extra marital or romantic relationship or whatever it is. And a lot of that is because we just don't know how to express. How do you say this to your woman? How do you have this uncomfortable conversation of what I'm lacking, what I don't have, what I need, what I'm feeling tempted to do? Right. That honesty piece, like, as 1,000 men are watching us, how do you advise that? How do you do that? Because they can listen to us and that sounds good, but when this show goes off and they're stuck with finding that answer for themselves, then we got to go back to our regular.
Right. And Dr. Dean, you can definitely chime in on this right here. But it took me a while. Everybody knows, like, I'm 41, so I would honestly say that I didn't really truly understand who I was, what I needed in a relationship, what it looked like for me to be in love. I didn't know what that looked like till probably about 34, 35. And mind you, I was married at 29. So going through that process and understanding what I lacked, and that's my responsibility. I had to take accountability for that, for the parts in my relationship that I felt like was unfulfilled because I didn't express it. And it went back to what he was talking about. Many of us don't know how to communicate effectively or express our emotions because we can't identify what the emotion is. And we often say on the show, on the platform, that most guys, I'm not going to say all, but most guys have grown up cutting off half of our emotions. We're not supposed to be sad. We're not supposed to express that or fear. Only thing we can truly show is happiness and anger. So anything that impacts us is either going to make us happy or it's going to make us angry. If my partner does something that I don't necessarily like, or it hurt my feelings, or I'm in my feelings, or I'm sad about it, or I'm fearful that she may leave or something like that, that was never really truly expressed. So a big part of the infidelity piece is that inability to want to express or even have the ability to identify what the emotion is to express it. So instead of expressing, just go out and, all right, let's fill this void with sex. Let's fill this void with communicating with this person over here. Let's fill this void with this person that we spend a lot of our time with in the workplace. To fill that particular void instead of going to your partner and being open, transparent, like, these are the things that I'm missing. Is there a compromise? And the compromise may be that the relationship ends because she don't have or he doesn't have the capability to fulfill those things.
And so I wholeheartedly agree with both. Both hit on some spot on points. The first thing I will say is, this COVID has really slowed down a whole lot of cheating. Because when you got quarantine, you got to pick which house you're going to be in. Right? So it slowed a lot of this game down.
Your relationship improved a lot. Y'all talking about
divorce. Or y'all talking about divorce.
Exactly.
And so I would tell you, COVID has definitely brought out a lot of things. It's either slowed some stuff down for some people, or it's brought it to light, or as we were even talking before, you have to start becoming more happy with yourself, right? So if you have to be home by yourself and so forth. I often think about men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So I think that you both have probably either read it or are familiar with the book. Y'all do communicate. The issue is that you don't communicate the same way we do, so you don't think that you communicate, but you are. You know that in our field, there's a saying that says you cannot not communicate. right? So if we know anything about algebra, we know that 2 negatives is a positive. So when you can not, you actually are communicating, right? So if I stay quiet, if the whole show I would have stayed here quiet, even though I didn't say a word, I communicated.
Right.
That I was not happy about something. I'm displeased. There's something going on, right? My silence communicates.
Right.
If I'm angry and I break something or I do something, I'm communicating, right? So for those of us on this end, we realize that anger shows a feeling of hurt.
Right.
We don't just become angry just because. It's a feeling of actually being hurt, but we live in a society where there are women or men, especially men, that we can't say that we're hurt. You hurt my feelings. What man is going to say you hurt my feelings? Because they don't want to sound weak.
Exactly.
But it does not make a man weak. Actually, it would actually make a woman feel some kind of way if a man were to ever say, you hurt. And so...
But you know, Dr. Dame, the thing I have an issue with that is that I truly believe what you're saying. And I believe that there are a great number of females or significant others, we'll say, that have that view. But in my circles, that's a minority. I couldn't see, or I haven't experienced. I have brothers, a bunch of friends, ones right here, but I've never had that experience of someone telling me that they ran into a female who said they would respect that. You know, and so because of that fear, you
will never hear it.
You
will never hear it. Because you might actually get a woman. I'm not going to lie to you, depending on the upbringing of the woman and how angry she may be at the time. She might say, get your funky ass out of my face, right? If you say, I do. And my children will be like, please don't act like you don't know.
We gonna blow the whistle on you, mama.
Right, correct. And so yes. To be honest with you, I think that if I were to ever hear somebody tell me I heard their feelings, I want to say that I have heard it before. It made me, and I'm gonna say it made me feel like shit.
Yeah.
It made me feel like, because if you get angry, it gives me more strength to continue to be angry with you.
Right.
But if you show me that I hurt you, then I'm like, oh, that's not where I was going. Like, now I'm hurt because I hurt you, right? Because I'm supposed to love you.
Right.
When we hurt people, we love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that we are communicating. We're just communicating in 2 different languages. And when we think about the love languages, right? What we tend to do with love languages is that I am acts of service. Thank you. I am acts of service. And so what do? I will use acts of service on you and on you versus finding out what yours is so that I can use it on you. I don't learn your language. So I might know your love language, but I still don't use your language. So if you're speaking a different, let's say you speak Spanish, and you don't speak any English, why am I going to speak English to you when all you speak is Spanish, and I can speak Spanish to you? But instead, because English is what I'm comfortable with, I'm going to speak English to you regardless. So now I'm pushing what your needs are to the side. I still want you in a relationship, but it's my way, right? So my needs are going to come first, versus me saying he likes gifts. So now let me get some gifts. Or he likes words of affirmation. Let me use his words of affirmation and let him know he looks awesome today. I don't know what he did, what type of cream he put on himself, but he's looking amazing. And instead of me doing that, I just go cook.
Oh,
you see? But I still didn't tell him anything. I showed you in my language how I felt about you, but I didn't use your language. To you. Now, you said one more thing that I want to touch. You talked about maturity levels. And I came up with this theory. Y'all say y'all don't like it, really? Many years ago, as to why we mature way quicker than y'all. Okay. When y'all growing up, what do y'all play with? Cars, friends, like the boys. games, video games. And we are the generation started video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I remember that.
Atari.
That's right, 2600.
What?
I didn't get the 5200. They had cars.
No.
No, I didn't have that one either. I had to leave my mama playing and lose a few with my man while I went to the bathroom. I'm just saying.
We are definitely
she would not give me the 52. She's like, I spent $50 on that Atari you got. It better work. You don't need a call.
50. 500.
I'm telling you, 50 was a lot. And $20 for a game? Oh, that was the word. That was everything.
You play it all day.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
You know,
Put a tape in there to keep it down.
I'm not going to tell you how I have an Atari. Okay, anyway, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
So you guys as boys played with video games, played with cars, played little games, whatever they were, right? As little girls, we played with dolls. We get little kitchens. We get sweeping. We get brooms and vacuums.
Easy bake ovens.
Easy bake ovens. Have you ever had something from an easy bake oven? It'll turn your stomach. You can't cook nothing with 100-watt glow.
No.
So anyway, so then what happens in later on in life? We progress into still we're playing with families, we're playing with professionals. So as little girls, we play as a teacher, as a doctor, as it is, and we go into that. We were already into an adult role as a child. We were groomed as a very small individual to already be the caregiver, to already be the housemaker, to also have a profession. Those were our games. What did y'all do? Y'all still do it in the future. Y'all still play with cars, with your boys, and with video games. And so that's why sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for y'all to catch up in my eyes. Also, there are things that we're also able, I mean, it speaks to multitasking, but there's the ability that it has been proven that women do have that ability to be able to multitask better, and definitely more than males can. And so that has been proven, so yes, we look that up if you like to.
So that's why y'all are able to talk about infidelity, cheat better than men. Ooh.
Well, our lives are better.
Ooh.
So while you guys get caught and then even think of 5 steps ahead,
right.
Y'all playing checkers, we playing chess.
Right.
See, this is it, right? So we already thinking, well, if this goes this way, then I got this plan here. If this goes this way, I got this plan here. We always have the plan B, right?
Never catch you slip.
However, but there's a difference though. When a man cheats, is because he may have been lusting. When a woman cheats, is because she's done with that relationship.
Oh, yeah. And that's what makes it even worse. Like the emotional cheating, like you've been kind of like dealing with some BS or whatever at home. He's not paying attention, all these things. And you get to work and it's that dude that come by your desk every day, ask you how you look nice, how's your day, how are the kids, what are you getting into later on, give you props, whatever. Like you get that recognition, that validation that you're not getting at home. Absolutely. He's speaking your language at this point. Meanwhile, your partner has got comfortable and whatever the case may be, whatever reason. But that cheating when that, because not many females are just going to be straight up savages. Like just do it because they want to do it. They see a guy and they just go do it and then go come home and still cook and clean and nothing. Like it normally doesn't happen like that. Nowadays it's more prevalent. With their savage. It's like I don't want to be with nobody. I just want to be able to do my own thing and not have to commit in a sense. But
at one point, that's gonna get old.
Yeah. Or either they've done it and they've been hurt. People hurt people. Exactly. So if I don't have to put my emotions in it to a certain extent, why? If I don't have to put myself at risk of being hurt, then why? I can go out here and have a whole schedule set up. Like, all right, you Monday, you Tuesday, you Friday. Don't call me on Sunday. Know
your day. Play your role. Play your position. Don't get out of pocket. I'm just saying.
That's it.
I'm just saying.
You saying.
It sounds like I've been there before. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're saying it.
But it makes it much worse when, especially for a guy, because it's a block ego, that another guy has one up on us.
They work harder.
They either got something emotionally that I don't got, they got the size that I don't got. I mean, all these different things, or he's a better lover. All these things go through our mind.
Not
If we get
necessarily.
cheated on.
You get cheated.
Yeah, that's what the guy's thinking. Like, he got something on me. He got something over on me. So it's a blow to my ego. And that's why guys get mad. They just want the fight to do it. And the dude is just,
you know what it really is? As I see here and watch you express that example, your eyes are getting big. And that's how it's the physical. It's what we see.
Right.
You know, we see you. We're a visual creature.
Oh, we done played it out in our head how the
whole thing happened. And it wasn't us though. And it wasn't us.
You were not a protagonist.
Really what we do, what putting the other guy's head
On our body. Yeah. And
that's what we see.
It's breaking our heart the whole time.
Like, oh man, he was doing the same thing. I was
That's what
doing.
hurt you. But man, listen. We're not gonna be here until.
Because you know we can talk about this all
You said
night.
it. We can do it all night.
But we not.
But it's a great continuation into the next segment to talk about. I want to talk about the occupational beat that you just spoke of as well. But as we close here for this argument, you had 50 seconds to speak to the couple that is dealing with infidelity right now and are afraid or don't have the finances or the resources to seek therapy, but really want to work on their relationship. 50 seconds, what could you tell them to hold them off from breaking it off and walking out right now?
I'm gonna give this to Doc first.
Oh,
So you're gonna be a gentleman now, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, slick.
Whatever she don't say, that's what I was just saying. Oh wow. So if you don't, there are ways that you can actually receive service. And so, and when I say services, I'm talking about therapy. And so I'm sorry, for us, we use the word services when we're talking about therapy, but to the rest of the world, I know it's therapy. And so there are ways that you can receive therapy. And so let's say that you have insurance, but you don't want to, you don't have the ability to use your copay. Use your EAP if you have it. You're able to get anywhere between 1 to 8 sessions, and that means completely for free. You also have the ability to contact any of the local universities that have master programs for counseling or social work, and those master level students, they have to do their internship hours, and they can't bill for that. So you can get that for free through them, and they always have a supervisor. So you will always, it's almost like you get one of us behind that person, guiding that individual. So that's another way. But if you don't want to go through any of that, because sometimes even in our culture, it is still taboo to receive therapy, to walk into a therapeutic office. And so I get that. So if that is the case, there are a lot of self-help books. There's a lot of ways that you can do certain things. I will say, grab a piece of paper. I tell this couples all the time. Grab a piece of paper and write the pros and the cons. Draw a line down the middle about that other individual in your life, right? Look which one outweighs what. Look at your core values. Look at that person's core values. Talk to them. Tell them to do the same thing and exchange lists with them, right? Because these are some of the things that we're going to do with you, and we're going to charge you about helping you too. And so these are some of the things that and you're getting them for free right now, right? And so you got the books, you have where you can use that paper, and you can also read books together. Look for books about couples and how to mend feelings, read to each other. Also focus on what made you fall in love with that person. What did that person once have? Do they still have it? And what happened that you guys are not there now? And are you willing, if they cheated, are you willing to move forward from it? Because the last thing somebody needs, and I know you probably heard this, the last thing somebody needs is that you say You can forgive the person. We're not telling you to forget. Forgive the person. That means don't bring it back up. That doesn't mean that when you're in the kitchen and you burn some pancakes and he calls out that you burned the pancakes and you get upset, say, but that bitch you were fucking didn't burn my pancakes, did you? You see what I'm saying? I hope y'all get that. So anyway, so don't bring it up. If you're going to forgive the person that you're with, if you're truly going to be dedicated to your relationship, you have to be able to move forward. That is number one. If not, don't do anything of what I said.
Right. Yeah, you said it. And I mean, first and foremost, again, like Dr. Dean said, that level of acceptance that one, there's something there. As far as whether the relationship is salvageable, but also recognizing that the hurt exists, the betrayal, all those things, whatever happened that caused your relationship to get to a crossroads. Being able to acknowledge those things and being accountable for the part that you played in it. Not only the cheater, but also the victim of the cheating. We have to have a level of accountability. There's something that we could have done within ourselves to make sure that we were as whole as we possibly could be in that relationship. But you brought up some really fine points as far as seeking services. Resources are out there. There, like you said, universities, but there are also organizations, community organizations that provide free and low cost services as well. Sliding scale. So never utilize the financial part as a barrier to not be a better person, because you're always going to find that clinician, that organization that's willing to help, because that's what we're in this, profession to do, is to help. It's not to make money. You're not going to be rich. You're not going to get rich being a therapist. But you know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to become a millionaire being a therapist. You're not. So like you said in the beginning, like your heart has to be in this particular field. And when it's not, it's definitely it shows. You got some whack therapists out here. They just book models. They would pass the test. But as far as implementing strategies and actually helping people, they suck. Now I know some of them. No, I'm on here, but I know some of them. But back to a relationship, just being able to, one, be honest with yourself. What it is that you truly want. Once you do that pros and cons that Dr. Dean was talking about, what is it that you truly want in a relationship? How do you want to be loved? How do you want to show that love? How do you want to give love to your partner? Is that person capable of doing that? Are you capable of giving that? But again, it starts with you just being honest with yourself. Like if you lusting after somebody or something alternative that you want to try within your relationship, have those discussions. You never know what your partner might be thinking. You never know. Try some new things, but be able to be comfortable with within yourself. You gotta be comfortable within yourself to be able to express what it is that you truly want. So that takes a lot of self-examination, and disclosure from the inside, some internal stuff, but also, but again, just being able to acknowledge the hurt or the dysfunction within a relationship. I always say acceptance leads to change. Like, you gotta accept what is in order to either keep it that way or change it and make it better. So, but it's always hope. I bet you couldn't repeat it. No, I can't.
Definitely not in 50 seconds.
No, definitely not. Not 50 seconds. Yeah. We like on a debate, right? We like on that president's debate. They get 30, and they gotta watch them.
What did you say?
And they gotta watch them.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. President, your time is up. Mr. President, your time is up. Mr. President, your time is up.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one thing I would say before we close, what Dr. Dean said was profound. I would want to follow. You have services, go get it. Sometimes when you talk about infidelity, I think it's safe to say that it at least takes 3. Well, to recover, to rehab that relationship, that it takes 3 as well. find a therapist, find services, find an intervention that will help. If you first ask yourself, is that what you really want? Do you really want to stay in? Because it's going to be uncomfortable trying to forgive and not forget. So, seek the help that you were speaking of. Use those resources because it's going to take more than you. If you are the problem, you surely can't be the solution on your own. It's not going to happen that way. Both of you will see that. If you go and seek help, and be honest with each other, be honest with yourself, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But patience is a virtue, and so it will prevail with concentrating on love.
That sounded like, no, total opposite. I was thinking Jerry Springer, like he had a final thought. Let's love ourselves and each other.
God bless and good night.
God bless. Now it's time to say goodbye.
Oh man, this was no conversation. Yeah. We're gonna keep it going. This is just part one.
And if they bring me back, guess what? I don't think they thought about this. So it's Dee, Dame, Dr. D, Triple D. I'm just saying, they bring me back. They call it Triple D.
I like that. See, we add value. We add value to the enterprise.
So we go with it. We normally just walk off.
We do.
Yeah, we just walk off.
Okay. Whatever it is. Okay, let's go. See y'all later.